Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Bill Valdez, President of the Senior Executives Association.
Wow, what a crowd. Welcome. It's always, a pleasure to welcome our Presidential Rank Award attendees, our honorable guests, and our Meritorious Rank Award winners. This is a moment of celebration. It's time for all of us to reflect on, the importance of public service and what the Presidential Rank Award winners bring to this actual, event. One of our goals at this summit is to highlight the extraordinary accomplishments of Presidential Rank winners. As I read through the accomplishments, I couldn't help but be amazed at the depth and breadth of their accomplishments on behalf of the American taxpayer. So, just for not the last time, but for the first time, we'd like to thank you for your service, congratulate you for this high honor, and now please enjoy your lunch, and our formal ceremony will start shortly.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage Bill Valdez.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed your lunch. And now we're going to begin the actual ceremony. It is my pleasure to introduce our Meritorious Rank Awards host, Francis Rose, who most of you know from his show on WJLA, Government Matters. Francis is a career award-winning journalist and a host of Government Matters, the only television show that covers trends in the business of federal government. Many of you and many of the PRA winners have been on Government Matters and know Francis very well. Government Matters' mission is to give high-level career federal employees, SES members, political appointees, Congress and the government contracting industry information and analysis to do their jobs better. He has covered many of you in the audience and the great work that you've done to serve the American taxpayer. So it's my pleasure to introduce Francis Rose.
I'm kidding. Thank you very much for the kind introduction, Bill. It's great to be with you again this year. Bill never misses an opportunity to remind me that this is the third year in a row that he's invited me, and the second year in a row that I've shown up. 3 years ago, I became very sick at the last minute, couldn't join you, and I'm very thrilled to be here for the second year in a row. Every time he sends me this material and I look at the people that I'm going to be talking about, I'm blown away by the work that you are doing on behalf of me and my friends and my family and so on and all of the United States of America. I cover you all, as Bill said, every day, and so I know some of you. It's wonderful to see familiar faces, and I'm familiar with the work of every agency across government. And yet when I read about the work that individual people and their teams are doing, it really is just amazing. So I'm thrilled to be here and have a chance to talk about some of your work and to see everyone. I'm going to apologize in advance because since I was with you last year, I've realized I've come to the age where the glasses that I need to see you are not the same glasses I need to see this. And so I'm going to be going back and forth a bunch of different times, and I mean, now I can't really see much. I can see you guys well, and that's, well, maybe I should put the glasses back on. So at any rate, if I'm shifting and it's distracting, I apologize for that. It's my pleasure to introduce Jill D'Amico. She's Vice President with BGRS, and Jill is going to introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you, Francis, for the kind introduction. BGRS is dedicated to working with federal government employees to ensure that their mobility needs are met and that the federal government has all of the tools that it needs for the next generation of leaders. That's why we partner with the Senior Executives Association. We believe that a highly mobile workforce is the workforce of the future. It is my honor today to introduce Lisa Hirschman, who is the Deputy Chief Management Officer and performing the duties of the Chief Management Officer at the Department of Defense, which is the #3 position of the DoD. Ms. Hirschman is a recognized thought leader in business transformation who brings extensive private sector expertise to her service in the Department of Defense. She is the Principal Management Officer for the Secretary and Deputy Secretary of Defense, responsible for delivering optimized enterprise business operations and ensuring the success of the National Defense Strategy. She is responsible for business transformation policies and programs designed and managed to improve performance standards, efficiencies, effectiveness among the Office of the Secretary of Defense, combatant commands, defense agencies, and field activities. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Hirschman to the summit.
Thank you, Jill. I appreciate that. It's always interesting when you have all of these deputy and performing the duties of enacting. I remember when David Norquist was stepping in to be the deputy secretary, and I used to call him the PTTD. I don't know if the DSD was PTSD or something, but it's just because of all those letters in front of your name, it gets a little challenging sometimes. So thank you, Jill, for that great introduction. Bill, thank you for what a great event. It's my first time attending, so it's an honor to be with you. And Francis, as always, thank you. I suffer from the same thing. It's not our eyes. I've determined my arms are too short, and so rather than bringing my glasses up, because I have a habit of taking them off and on, I just had my remarks printed in really large font. So thank you to my team for helping me out, and thank you to the Senior Executive Association. It's truly an honor to be here with you today, and what a great venue. You know, a very historic hotel that set the standard for elegance and beauty since its opening in 1925, and has been the venue for events of presidential importance, including every inaugural ball since Calvin Coolidge. So it's quite a remarkable place, and I think very fitting for today. Very much to recognize the recipients of the Presidential Rank Awards. As former Governor Bob Ehrlich said during his State of the State address in 2003, it's appropriate to celebrate public service and the thoughtful people who choose to serve. Today we recognize the visionary leaders who are shaping the future of public service, the career public servants who have committed to a lifetime of service to the defense, development, and the advancement of our country, aligned by our oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States so that the citizens of America may enjoy freedom. Our career public servants are where the work gets done in government. As President Reagan remarked during his Presidential Rank Awards speech from 1983, government service is a partnership. In other words, a relationship between political leaders who do most of the talking and career employees who do most of the work. You do realize that because I just said that, I need to keep my remarks short, right? Now, I don't want to take up too much of your time because it's really about celebrating the award recipients. But I do think it's important to reflect on how the work of public servants supports the political direction of our elected officials and how it's impacted the world, this nation, and the people of America. Today, we're going to hear about leaders who are shaping the international order, protecting American interests in the global commons, and defending not only the nation, but our allies and our partners. These leaders are influencing NATO allies to pledge defense spending and develop a unified approach to emerging threats from Russia and violent extremist organizations. They're forging treaties with multiple nations on responsible management of the Arctic and Arctic research. They are leading ministerial level events to address the global nuclear crisis. They are operating in cyberspace and interstellar space to achieve the President's vision for protecting American interests in those domains. Our civil servants shape our world and beyond. You will also hear about leaders making change for America. This includes scientific research and advances to protect agriculture and the public from damage caused by invasive wildlife. They are leading maternal health initiatives to protect the unborn through safety protocols and Zika virus research. They are leading the investment and execution of water and infrastructure projects to reinforce and protect the southeastern United States. They are executing the President's management agenda, which sets forth the strategy for modernizing the federal government to improve mission outcomes, service to our public, and stewardship of taxpayer dollars for the American people. But where I want to focus on today is on the people, because it is what today's summit is all about, the career civil servants who are guiding the federal workforce into the future. I have the honor and privilege to work with a couple of this year's recipients on a routine basis. They truly embody the character, the work ethic, and dedication to duty of a public servant. In her reflection on public servants, Condoleezza Rice said, "There's no greater challenge and there is no greater honor than to be in public service. Sometimes we tend to impugn the motives of public servants, but I can assure you they're not there for the glory. They're not in it for themselves." This is true. It's selfless. They are selfless and humble, and each will tell you their award is not a reflection of them, but rather than the teams with whom they work on a daily basis. A true sign of that humility and servant leadership. So award recipients, let's focus on the people who make up your teams. You know, first I want to start with acknowledging your families. I was a Senate wife for 18 years when my husband served in the Indiana Senate, and it always made me so warmed my heart when someone would recognize the sacrifice of the family. And I know that in order to be deserving of these kind of awards, it often meant late nights, early mornings, weekends, and that your family is part of that support system. So thank you to the families who helped move along these very deserving recipients throughout their career. Also, thank you for that, I appreciate it. Also, let's talk about your office family, because if you do the math, who do we spend more time with, right? So additionally, those in your immediate office, they're your colleagues in adjacent offices in your organization, maybe in the interagency, maybe even in other governments. They are politically appointed leaders. They are the employees in another office or another organization with whom you have worked on a project. Through the work you have done, and through the work you are currently doing, you may not realize it, but you're inspiring these people. You are leaders of great influence. I often tell people, remind yourself regularly that as a leader, you are watched more often than you might realize. And it's one of those situations where when people say to you, "Hey, I saw you on the metro today," and you're thinking, "Wow, I just try to keep to myself, reading my book, whatever it is," but you are being watched. And so how, you are an inspiration to future leaders. Be the leader that you want your people to be, and in fact, be the leader you want your leaders to be. I am a strong believer that culture is a byproduct of leadership. And we need your leadership to sustain the culture that makes and keeps America great. This is your legacy. Thank you for the opportunity to express my gratitude for your service to our nation. The ladies and gentlemen that we recognize today are the tip of the spear, leading change across the government and making the services we provide to our citizens more efficient, more accessible, and even more important, more reliable. May God bless you and the United States of America. Thank you.
Lisa, thank you very much for those comments, and thank you in particular for recognizing the families and the people that are involved. There's a lot of discussion on an ongoing basis about the work that everybody does, and without fail, pretty much everybody that comes on my program that I have an opportunity to talk about why do you think you're successful says because my spouse, my family, my kids, and then my infrastructure around me at work sets me up to succeed. So it's wonderful that you recognize those people. It is my pleasure now to welcome to the stage the chairman of the board of the Senior Executives Association, Carl Schneider. Carl?
So I just want you to know that Lisa Hirschman used to be my boss, and everything she said is absolutely true. And I just started wearing glasses, so you can see me really myself. Quickly, I just want to say congratulations to all the recipients who are here today, and all the other recipients who couldn't be here. It really is an extraordinary honor when you think about how very few people get this award. I want to reiterate what Lisa said about families. This couldn't happen without great families. And I also want to say thank you to the sponsors who made it possible for us to have this ceremony today. Bill asked me to say one thing quickly. He didn't tell me what it was, he just said say one thing quickly. So what I'll do is to tell you, I used to tell the SCSs in the Army, where I worked for 44 years, that the first rule of an SCS is it ain't about you. Because a lot of times, people first get promoted to SCS, they think, this is great. People stand up when I come into the room, people treat me with respect, this is really terrific. But that's not why you became an SCS. You became an SCS to do hard work, to do the hard work of the United States government. And I ask you, as you leave here today, please feel good about what you've achieved. But now you've just set the bar a little bit higher. What are you going to do next year and the year after? What are you going to do to encourage the people who work with you to achieve the excellence that you've achieved? The Bible says, from those to whom much is given, much is expected. And I think the Presidential Rank Award is one of those things that we recognize you. Now we need you to get back to work, to do the important work, as Ms. Hirschman said, the important work of the government, which is to serve the American people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carl. And as Carl spoke, I'm reminded of a story from early in my radio career. I worked with a gentleman who was not very fastidious about executing his responsibilities, and as Carl talked about raising the bar, I'm reminded that I asked him once why he did such a crappy job, in particular recording the commercials that needed to play on the station every day, and he said, because if I do a good job, they'll make me do it again. And so, I believe that's what you're alluding to, right? Well, now what is that supposed to be? He said, you came back, and I don't know what that's supposed to mean. So we will simply begin by welcoming the first agency. Congratulations to the folks from the Department of Agriculture. If you could make your way up to the stage. And we're also going to recognize, let's do agriculture all together. There are 3 folks from agriculture that are here. Dr. Larry Clark leads the department's efforts to protect agriculture and the public from damage and conflicts caused by U.S. wildlife. He's overseen a 53% increase, in the number of scientific advances being reported in professional publications within the field. That has led to the relevant federal scientists being cited by colleagues 555, wow. So it's the first one that I'm enjoying this experience with. All right. Led to the relevant federal scientists being cited by colleagues 553% more often, and their research being downloaded 128% more often. These influential scientific advances include the first immunocontraceptive vaccine for wild and feral horses and burros, a novel live trap for large reptiles, a system to manufacture an aerially delivered bait to control invasive brown tree snakes, and a repellent strategy for reducing bird damage to crops based on the ultraviolet characteristics of natural compounds. You're right, it probably is the glasses. I guess this is the equivalent of a costume change. Well, and it turns out this didn't really help much. Dr. Tim Gottwald is an internationally respected scientific leader in the fields of plant pathology and epidemiology, who's made numerous advances in the fight against exotic plant diseases that threaten U.S. and foreign agriculture. He's developed epidemiological methods and models that have helped combat a variety of diseases affecting citrus, including providing an endpoint to a 10-year, billion-dollar citrus canker eradication program. That underpins national and international surveys for citrus greening mitigation and supported eradication of Pompox virus and a census travel model that predicts entry points of exotic diseases. Administrator Hubert Hamer manages a $200 million 50-state agricultural statistics program that covers 120 crops, 45 livestock items, and a wide range of contributing economic factors. He led an increase in the use of geospatial data that includes satellite assessments of the impact of hurricanes on agriculture, and that guides disaster response. During the 2019 government shutdown, he led the effort to publish 40 sensitive data reports on an accelerated schedule to meet the needs of the agricultural market. I'm adding this on my own editorial basis, despite the fact that he wasn't getting paid. Department of Commerce, Ian Spielman is a nationally and internationally recognized leading figure in the research on physics and quantum mechanics, particularly quantum simulation. His research may solve the long-standing mystery of high-temperature superconductivity, enabling advances that make these materials more technologically useful, possibly even operating at room temperature and creating huge energy savings and as yet unimaginable technological advances. Ian, of course, is with the Department of Commerce. The Office of Management and Budget, Leslie Field, organizes 3,000 plus contracting officers around 10 categories of common goods and services with unified spending and expertise, which saved taxpayers $23 billion, eliminated 30,000 plus duplicative contracts, increased the dollars going to small businesses, moved $140 billion in spending to better manage contracts, and identified nearly 40 best-in-class contracts for government-wide use. She also launched the acquisition credentialing system that over 100,000 civilian agency acquisition professionals use, with 91% of contracting professionals and 83% of program managers now certified. A personal note, because Leslie, I'm happy to say, is a friend of mine. There you are. Leslie also, by the way, has served as the acting administrator of federal procurement policy for longer than any person has served as the confirmed administrator of procurement policy when you add up all the times that she's been the acting administrator. And finally, for this group, Alan Spielman at the Office of Personnel Management managed over $60 billion in federal employee insurance programs, containing health insurance costs to a 1.3% premium increase in 2019. That's the lowest since 1996. And as somebody who's not in the FEHBP, I can tell you my insurance went up a little more than that this year. So nice work, Alan. He also oversaw the implementation of a new assessment framework which tied allowed profit to healthcare quality measures, leading to an increase overall in quality in prenatal care, blood pressure control, and other health services. And he led the transition over 1 million military retirees and families of active duty members to FedVIP. That's the most significant expansion in the program's history. Please congratulate these winners. It's excellent work. I want to congratulate you all and welcome to the stage the recipients from the Energy Department, from FERC, from the General Services Administration, and the Small Business Administration, please. I want to start with Barbara Helen. She established and leads a broad coalition across the Energy Department to define and execute the department's Exascale initiative that will deploy the next generation of scientific supercomputers for the nation. She's already managed the acquisition of numerous supercomputers at DOE scientific labs, and they represent, of course, the most powerful computation tools in the world, not just in the United States, but in the world for scientific computing. Randall Hendrickson developed and implemented a disciplined and rigorous series of processes for budget formulation, execution, and accountability, resulting in annual appropriation increases from 6 to 11% over a 4-year period. He also spearheaded the development of a financial integration system mandated by the National Defense Authorization Act, resolving over $400 million of funding issues and completed over 23,000 funding transactions without errors in 1 year. I would like, Randall, for you to take a look at my Quicken when we're done with this. He further led the effort to develop an updated correspondence and dashboard process that provides real-time metrics and tracking of actions, consolidation of over 400,000 documents into one system, and training for over 1,000 employees. Edward Harrington spearheaded a multi-organizational overhaul of the nuclear operator training program for the first time in 60 years. That included integration of virtual training environments, like the first ever large-scale engine room simulator. This overhaul saved $280 million in unneeded training requirements. Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, we welcome Larry Parkinson. He has led the FERC's efforts to detect, investigate, and litigate fraud and market manipulation cases. Those are, of course, complex and difficult to prove. Despite those challenges, FERC has assessed under his leadership over $700 million in civil penalties and redistributed over $500 million of unjust profits back to harmed consumers. He also took on some of the largest Wall Street firms and their considerable legal resources, including a $410 million settlement with JP Morgan that he personally negotiated. That led to $125 million going back to customers. He also issued guidance on market manipulation that's been utilized by industry to improve compliance and avoid illegal activities. General Services Administration. David Shive. Under Mr. Shive's leadership, GSA continues to be known as one of the finest IT organizations in the federal government, taking on first mover risk on behalf of government and receiving the highest scorecard rating for advancing key initiatives under the Federal Information Technology Acquisition Reform Act over the last 2 years. GSA IT continues to be rated the best mid and large agency IT shop to work for in third-party best places to work analysis, and has achieved $371 million in cost savings and avoidance from technology consolidation, transformation, and business process optimization, while increasing customer satisfaction scores year over year to 91.4%. Oh, there you are. So whoever wrote that for your team is a little too modest. He didn't just do well on the FITAR scorecard. Dave and his peer at the Education Department, Jason Gray, are the first 2 agencies to ever receive A+ on the FITAR scorecard. So congratulations to you for that. Nobody's ever done that. At the Small Business Administration, Joseph Lodo has developed innovative ways to strengthen SBA's continuity of operations during disasters, such as streamlining the background investigation process for surge staff. He also developed an online platform that's increased the rate at which SBA reduces and resolves OIG and GAO audit findings. Please congratulate all of these women. I'd like to welcome the folks from the Department of Health and Human Services to the stage, please. God knows I need it. HHS folks, welcome. Susie Connor developed and directs an accelerated digital transformation initiative to re-envision the CDC's IT enterprise, modernize core IT infrastructure, and build workforce skills for the digital age. And that work has identified $251 million in savings. Her leadership has improved the CDC's FITARA grade from an F to an A and raised HHS's composite score. A+ is coming, right? She's also migrated 100% to a cloud infrastructure and fielded 17 new or significantly expanded IT products and services, such as a near real-time reporting tool for staff travel used during the Ebola outbreak. Angela Hebert led the revamping of FDA's ethics program to address oversight issues and developed an aggressive remediation plan to rebuild the program at the agency. When FDA experienced a lapse in appropriations in FY 2019, shutdown, or we can say shutdown, can't we, instead of lapse in appropriations, impacting much of its workforce, Angela judiciously assisted in leading the agency's operations. Angela led hundreds of FDA employees and contractors to implement its first ever employee outreach event during the shutdown, providing over 1,000 furloughed FDA employees with critical documentation related to benefits, pay, and employee assistance. She also created an automated furlough system prior to the shutdown, which saved $500,000 in time and cost to restart the agency. Maria Joyce ensured effective management of clinical research informatics projects like barcoding, a new outpatient pharmacy electronic system, and intensive care unit e-documentation. She was also instrumental in the HHS Clinical Center's transition to a paperless environment by solely using electronic health records, which achieved the maximum national certification for acute care and ambulatory care, something only 3% of hospitals and no federal facilities had achieved. She also has in-depth knowledge and aptitude with contemporary cost allocation, tracking methodologies, and financial systems, which enabled her to achieve NIH goals of reducing the growth of healthcare costs and ensuring program integrity and responsible stewardship of resources. Andrea Norris designed and implemented a series of innovative public-private partnerships that allow hundreds of thousands of researchers at NIH and academic institutions partnered with NIH to make use of the most advanced cloud-based computational infrastructure, tools, and services available. That program is already supporting high-impact research programs like the Cancer Moonshot and the All of Us Precision Medicine Initiative. She also led the deployment of one of the largest distributed 100 gigabit research networks in the country and implemented the first supercomputer completely dedicated to advancing biomedical research that was listed among the top 100 most powerful computers in the world. These advances are allowing biomedical researchers to more easily take advantage of emergent data management and technological expertise in computational platforms, and that will enable access to training on new tools and methods to enhance cutting-edge science and facilitating the formation of a more integrated and interoperable biomedical data ecosystem. Mary Wallace led the development of communications and customer service for over 140 million Americans, translating complex policy requirements into customer-focused tools to help people make informed choices about their health care. That resulted in increased customer satisfaction with the health insurance marketplaces, growing from 64 to 90% in 4 years, and Medicare to 94%. That's its highest score ever. She's also spearheaded the e-Medicare initiative, a multi-year effort to transform and modernize Medicare services. Please congratulate our HHS. I'd like to welcome now our Department of Homeland Security winners to the stage, please. We start with Dominic Bianchini. He led TSA's mitigation strategy in a combined cross-federal working group in response to the 2017 failed Australian terror threat and coordinated TSA's response to threats from electronic devices. He's also coordinated the implementation with international partners of improved detection technologies at global checkpoints, and he co-chairs a global aviation security innovation forum. Kevin Boshier's expertise in small business programs is utilized across the federal government, including at SBA, and he's developed many of DHS's small business initiatives. He's targeted all categories of small business and exceeded even the most challenging participation goals for multiple years, ensuring that DHS has received an A rating from the SBA for the past decade. Ernest DeStefano created a single form allowing foreign nationals to automatically obtain a Social Security number when they were authorized for employment. That increased the security and timeliness of the entire process. He also launched a secure credit card payment process for the over 40 immigration benefit applications and partnered with law enforcement agencies to identify emerging counterfeiting threats and redesign immigration documents to protect their integrity. He launched a mobile workplace initiative that reduced the office facility footprint by over 30%, but while increasing staff size, promoting flexibility and collaboration. The result is that many of his designs and ideas are being adopted by other USCIS offices as they prepare to move into their new headquarters. Darby LaJoy has led the testing and deployment of credential authentication technology, computed tomography, improved canine screening for explosives, and enhanced carry-on screening. He also developed new effectiveness metrics and managed a 5 to 6% annual growth in passenger volume while maintaining wait times below TSA standards. Additionally, he launched an insider threat mitigation strategy after a high-profile gun smuggling scheme was uncovered, and developed the agency's outcome-focused compliance strategy that implements nationwide improvements to officer safety following the shooting at LAX. Mary Kate Whalen has demonstrated throughout her career an exceptional commitment to federal service, developing personal expertise in complex areas of homeland security law and leading a legal team noted for its exemplary work ethic and integrity. Her career accomplishments include leading the coordination and clearance of significant regulatory actions, implementing critical security programs such as Secure Flight Program, Transportation Worker Identification Credential at U.S. Visit, and the PreCheck program, which I am just a huge fan of. I've only had PreCheck now for about 2 months, but it's the greatest thing that's happened.
Sign up if you haven't signed up yet.
I love you. Anyway, sorry. Recently, she also supported critical TSA operational needs during the shutdown by quickly identifying authorities to effectively manage limited TSA resources to assist TSA screeners in maintaining screening activities to protect human life and property at checkpoints. I have to say, before we congratulate these folks, I had to travel during the shutdown, as a lot of you probably did too, and it's remarkable that that job, which you couldn't pay me enough money to do, they showed up all the time, they knew they weren't getting paid, and they did a wonderful job. So as we congratulate these winners from DHS, let's recognize them too. Thank you all very much. Next, I want to welcome our Interior, Justice, and Labor winners to the stage. Excuse me, David Palumbo has been instrumental in the negotiation and execution of major water policy initiatives that have stimulated the economy of the Western United States and led to the resolution of longstanding controversies, litigation, and improved management of water and power resources. His most recent accomplishment was developing a drought contingency strategy for the upper and lower Colorado River basins, which are the most important water sources for the Southwest United States. My brother in Phoenix, thanks you very much. And irrigates nearly 5.5 million acres of farmland and serves 40 million Americans. Tim Quinn led the consolidation of 15 disparate telecommunications networks, resulting in a $42 million savings, and developed a combined interior USDA test lab for radio interoperability. He's also managing migration to the cloud, implementation of FITARA, and development of future AI, machine learning, and high-performance computing technologies for telemetry, sensors, and scientific modeling. At the Department of Justice, Mary Beth Patrizzi led the Defense, Industrials, and Aerospace section of the DOJ Antitrust Division to issue the most merger challenges of any DOJ section. She's managed 27 complex investigations over 10 years, ensuring the stability and competitiveness of the defense industrial base. She's also partnered with colleagues in the defense agencies, even persuading them to start lawsuits where necessary, and with 14 international competition organizations, such as on the review of the largest merger in the history of the aircraft industry. At the Department of Labor, Andrew Auerbach has twice reorganized and restructured his organization to achieve greater efficiency and provide closer alignment with administration priorities, overseeing the creation of 2 models that use publicly available data to detect and deter embezzlement and other criminal activity, overseen a highly successful program under the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, developed a complex and multifaceted program to increase employee engagement, and took a significant role in creating greater transparency and agency participation on the department's working capital fund. Nancy Rooney has made an impact on every aspect of the Department of Labor and to millions of workers with her novel approaches and commitment to effective and efficient government. She directly oversees the Employment and Training Administration's $10 billion budget grant award portfolio, which provides a lifeline to workers who are facing unemployment due to downturns in the economy or emergency situations. When the president identified the opioid crisis to be a national health emergency and charged federal departments to address the crisis, she created an innovative solution to assist individuals impacted by the crisis, to help them get employment and encouraging training opportunities for professions positioned to address the underlying causes of the crisis. Jennifer Sheehy created and leads the federal government's Stay at Work, Return to Work policy initiative that is designed to intervene earlier than any existing disability program to improve reemployment rates of those with disabilities. 8 states initiated projects in 2018 based on the initiative, testing policy changes that are intended to improve outcomes for nearly 500,000 workers impacted by one type of injury alone, musculoskeletal injury. She also accelerated the adoption of policy changes for disability at the state level. It's impacted 32 states with over 15 million people with disabilities. Many of them will have improved benefits as a result. Please congratulate these people. Welcome our State Department, Transportation Department, USAID winners to come to the stage. We start with the Department of State, and Ann Ganser established a 14-nation working group to protect sensitive technologies from acquisition from countries of concern, leading to several countries revising their policies and procedures. She also led the implementation of 2017 sanctions on the Russian and defense intelligence sectors, successfully disrupting billions of dollars in Russian arms deals. Michael Mackler's advice and legal guidance has helped win approval of 14 treaties from 2015 to 2018, up from 6 in the previous 4 years. He also played a critical role in resolving an impasse on an insurance regulation agreement with the EU, managing the treaty issues arising from Brexit, and in the successful U.S. bid to host the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Victor Raphael led the State Department's Bureau of Intelligence and Research efforts to develop and execute a program of analysis that integrates intelligence with policy and has made their model of integrated all-source intelligence support senior decision makers a best practice within the intelligence community, even while addressing a 15% personnel shortage. He also realigned intelligence support for the State Department leadership and supported the implementation of sanctions against targets in Russia, Iran, North Korea, and Venezuela, all while reaching a new record of 95% customer support ratings. At the Transportation Department, John Donaldson provided legal oversight for $600 million in annual highway safety grants, including guidance to quickly implement new ideas from Congress, enabling all 50 states to deploy years of lifelong savings. These programs run the gamut from seatbelt use and drunk driving prevention to emerging safety programs like distracted driving from cell phone use. Today, the national roadway fatality rate is less than a third of what it was when these grant programs began. At USAID, Bob Levitt led an HR transformation that created a central HR contact center and established a new cloud-based platform called Launchpad for HR that streamlined and automated processes. These individual efforts increased customer satisfaction scores by 38%. Bob and his team also developed and rolled out a new employee performance management system that refocused attention on regular and ongoing performance conversations. Please congratulate all of these leaders. Those of you who have spoken at something like this know that there's sometimes a timer. And I'm happy to say that my timer here says 25 minutes, and it's said that ever since I got up there. So I'm just going to go and go. I'm kidding. I'd like to welcome the VA and Environmental Protection Agency winners to come up. I'm pleased to start with VA. Lemon Clegg has used biostatistics to evaluate and improve the VA's use of opioids to manage, to safely manage pain, the timeliness of its healthcare consultations, and the availability of its women-specific healthcare services. She's also played a key role in developing the topics and review methodologies for the cyclical quality of care evaluations done at VA facilities. Denise Delson has a track record of addressing deficiencies and launching new services and clinical networks at multiple VA medical centers. She became director of the Detroit Medical Center after the previous director resigned suddenly and balanced the budget and improved patient satisfaction by 10%. David McClanahan led the creation of the Appeals Management Office, as well as the design, enactment, and implementation of the Veterans Appeals Improvement and Modernization Act, increasing appeals closure by 24%. He also launched a program to provide the same process improvements to veterans with legacy appeals and stood up a separate pension and fiduciary service line to address the needs of vulnerable, elderly, and disabled beneficiaries. Dee Ramsell oversaw a significant improvement in VA's employee engagement, moving it from near the bottom of large agency rankings to 6th in 2018, and developed the VA's internal change management capability. She developed the employee engagement strategy, championed the inclusion of engagement metrics in SES performance plans, and focused significant attention on first-line supervisors, including by creating Supervisor Recognition Week. At the Environmental Protection Agency, Sarah Dunham successfully revised the cross-state air pollution rule, reducing soot-causing emissions by 75%, or 8 billion pounds, and smog causing emissions by 50%, or 2 billion pounds, all of which led to a 2018 finding that upwind states are no longer significantly contributing to air pollution in downwind states. She also led the implementation of the treaty to reduce use of ozone-depleting chemicals, causing a 74% reduction over the past 5 years, and reduced duplicative requirements in the greenhouse gas reporting program by 24%. Please congratulate our VA and EPA. So we have so many winners from the next agency that we're going to have to do them in 2 cohorts. I want to start with the first group of folks from NASA. Derek Cheston ensured the mechanical design and systems requirements were successfully met for the first Orion experimental test flight and for the European Space Agency's $300 million portion of NASA's next crewed flight program. He also led the design and execution of engineering projects to reduce the risk of spacecraft fires while reducing test costs by millions of dollars. Karen Feldstein led the establishment of over 100 agreements a year with traditional and non-traditional partners, including 30 foreign space agencies, helping to build a consensus on U.S. space policy objectives, including extending the International Space Station to 2024 and securing cooperation for increased human and robotic planetary exploration, and pursuing national priorities and objectives, including novel agreements with the Indian, Korean, and United Arab Emirates space agencies. Dr. James Garvin, as the first ever chief scientist for Mars exploration at NASA, achieved a 100% mission success rate after 2 high-profile failures, including accomplishing groundbreaking science. He also pioneered satellite techniques for studying newly formed volcanic islands on Earth in 3D, non-destructive approaches for characterizing lunar and Martian samples at new scales, and multi-frame imaging approaches to produce high-precision topography more quickly during space exploration missions than ever before. Felicia Jones leads one of the largest engineering organizations at NASA and ensures that a full range of engineering expertise is provided to enable end-to-end spaceflight developments for missions. She oversees a $5 billion portfolio. She's positioned NASA to evaluate project risks and take action to deliver hundreds of millions of dollars in savings to the taxpayer. She led teams that reviewed, assessed, and integrated over 17 discipline-level technical capabilities to provide a potential 10 to 25%, it's the glasses again, 10 to 25% cost savings to the taxpayer, while at the same time balancing program focus and technical capabilities. Tom McCarthy turned the $14 billion Joint Polar Satellite System program around despite low morale and multiple program setbacks while keeping the original launch schedule. He also played a key role in missions to discover Earth-like planets in the galaxy and ensure continuous monitoring of space weather. He also managed a critical portfolio of 18 science missions that maintain cost, including satellite measurements of global ice coverage depth, experiments with stratospheric aerosols, taking atmospheric ozone measurements, and monitoring land use changes from climate change and natural disasters. Susan Motil's management of the European Service Module integration played a vital role to ensure the success of the Orion program, which will enable crewed spacecraft to travel farther and longer without docking at a space station than ever before. She managed multiple complex program issues and a relationship with the European Space Agency during its first project at this scale, keeping the project on schedule by creating new management processes. This is just the first group of winners from NASA. Congratulations. First group, you're all set. All right, there's so many, I think they just didn't want me to go on and on and on, about 12 people. In the second group, James Reuter executed 95% of the $760 million budget despite late appropriation, performing 10 major reviews of key space technology systems and delivering technologies for flight demonstration, including green propellant, a deep space atomic clock, robotic refueling, X-ray timing and navigation, optical communications and sensor-integrated solar arrays and reflectory antenna, solar electronic propulsion system, and the International Space Station refabricator. I don't even know what some of that stuff is. I don't understand how it works. He also redesigned the procurement strategies and set technology requirements for 20 solicitations and created SOPs for procurement based on past lessons learned. Steve Shee, as Associate Administrator for Diversity and Equal Opportunity, has launched a number of transformational NASA-wide initiatives that ensure the safety and effectiveness of NASA's workplace and missions, including a workforce unity program, an anti-harassment campaign, and an enhanced focus on civil rights compliance requirements for external research institutions that partner with NASA. He's brought to the agency his considerable experience and understanding of the SES from his time at the Office of Personnel Management, where he led numerous government-wide initiatives to improve the SES core, as well as performance management, leadership development, employee engagement, telework, and work life and wellness for all federal employees. Kenny Todd leads day-to-day operations for the International Space Station, including the mission management team, which is an international forum of the 18 member nations. In addition to the ongoing science and research activities aboard the space station, he directed the operations team in the execution of a complex flight program that included 59 Russian, European, and Japanese vehicles and 27 cargo missions flown by U.S. commercial vehicles. He also led the planning and execution of 48 successful spacewalks to install, repair, and upgrade core systems and research-based hardware on the outside of the space station. Marcus Watkins successfully negotiated a new contract between NASA and Caltech to manage and operate NASA's only federally funded research and development center at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. It's a $30 billion 10-year contract. Contractual elements include complex Earth and planetary satellites, advanced technologies, and operation of NASA facilities. He also created and led a new division in the Science Mission Directorate after the President directed NASA and NOAA to partner again to deliver the next generation of civil weather satellites. Calvin Williams is recognized as a groundbreaking leader in the federal infrastructure design and sustainability community. He has expertly managed NASA's $36 billion real estate portfolio and the $47 billion NASA property and equipment portfolio. Over the past 6 years, he's led and implemented an innovative strategy to revitalize NASA's infrastructure and develop an agency master plan for NASA's aging real property footprint. This resulted in a disposition of over 400 underutilized buildings, 2.5 million square feet of space, and 5 property sites, resulting in over $200 million in savings. In addition, his extraordinary efforts in managing the execution of enhanced use lease agreements with commercial partners will provide a source of funding to the agencies to help repair and replace NASA's aging facilities, and will provide underutilized NASA land, buildings, and structures to commercial partners to advance future space explorations. Please congratulate Cohort 2. All right, only 16 more agencies to go. No, I'm kidding. Just a few. Please welcome our Defense Department winners to the stage. Michelle Cresswell Atkinson's leadership has ensured that the Missile Defense Agency is considered the gold standard for financial management within DoD, helping to justify billions in additional funding, including a $1.2 billion missile defense system on the Korean Peninsula to address rising tensions there. She also worked closely with the CIO to raise the agency's cybersecurity scores, making it a model for cybersecurity improvement in the department. Pamela Franceschi championed the development of a predictive analysis tool to identify potential improper payments to vendors. It's prevented over $12 billion in improper payments so far. She also automated transactions, reduced duplicative audit requirements, retired outdated legacy systems, prevented lost or canceled funds, and collected numerous outstanding debts, saving hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars. Paul Kofsky provided essential legal advice to support the Secretary's focus on enhancing the readiness and lethality of warfighters, prevention and detection of sexual harassment of service members, the elevation of U.S. Cyber Command to combatant command status, and the creation of the U.S. Space Force. His leadership and legal skills were also instrumental to successful efforts to clear legal obstacles for the interoperability of VA and DoD electronic health records, create new legal authorities to use innovative medical technologies in the battlefield, and revamp the military justice system through executive orders. Douglas Packard facilitated major telecommunications initiatives that increased efficiencies and reduced costs by $60 million a year, as well as correcting negative audit findings for $3 billion of classified contracts. He also streamlined the acquisition process, including reducing the time required for acquisition planning by 70% and reduced contract prices by $800 million. Glenda Shiner leads professional development initiatives for the DoD financial management workforce, including establishing financial management career roadmaps by civilian occupational series and developing and implementing a mandatory competency-based DoD Financial Management Certification Program that applies to over 56,000 people. She led successful negotiation with 10 national level unions, produced a DoD instruction in 8 months versus the usual 12 to 18 months, and achieved a 98.6% employee compliance rate. She also advocated and gained legislation for a new financial management direct hire authority, for which there have been over 3,300 hires to date. Dr. Reese Williams leads the research, development, test, and evaluation activities for the Department of Defense Threat Reduction Agency, DTRA. He directs a geographically dispersed military and civilian workforce of more than 450 PhD-level engineers and scientists, and executes an annual budget of more than $1 billion. He leads the Defense Department's primary science and technology program to develop capabilities to detect, deter, and defeat foreign chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear weapons of mass destruction, as well as improvised threat devices. In addition, he's responsible for the development of U.S. Capabilities of U.S. forces to operate in WMD environments. Dr. Williams is the senior agency S&T interface with the military services and the DoD Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering. Please congratulate our DoD. Lisa obviously cheered a little bit more for them than she did for the other agencies, and I think that's understandable. All right, same deal at the Air Force as we had at NASA. There are so many people here that I'm going to introduce you in groups. So we'll take the first four, and then I will introduce the second four. I won't say the last. Beginning at the Air Force, Paul Antonic is the principal scientific advisor for more than $1.6 billion in research. He's overseen a 47% increase in inventions and played a key role in the development of a new science and technology strategy. He himself developed an all-weather radio frequency data link for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance that allowed for a 1,600% increase in capacity, a novel radio frequency technology that allows automatic scans without mechanical steering or phase shifters, a method to simultaneously detect and image moving targets, and a method to enable communications to be intelligible only at a specified distance and angle. Terry Edwards created an exercise to ensure 320,000 airmen are ready to fight during an attack involving biological, radiological, nuclear, and explosive threats, and launched a concept of operations for a combat support wing. He also quantified and prioritized $25 billion in deferred critical infrastructure maintenance, allowing highest priority items to proceed and leading to $2 billion more in funding. That led to him becoming a key author of the Air Force Infrastructure Investment Strategy. Rich Hartley created partnerships between 62 Air Force installations in their communities, leading to 355 agreements on a wide variety of quality of life initiatives and cost savings, a 700% return on the initial $7 million investments. Examples include local law enforcement sharing firing ranges with Air Force security, eliminating duplicative facilities, and exchanging training facilities and materials among emergency responder programs. He's also made enormous contributions addressing water supplies contaminated by legacy firefighting foam, improved aircraft fuel efficiency to save 41 days of maintenance downtime and $7 million, and stood up the Air Force Office of Energy Assurance to provide more resilient power sources. Evan Hopley designed the nation's only realistic anti-mobile long-range missile capability testing area to ensure the U.S. can't be held hostage by nations like North Korea, and the only capability to quickly eliminate large quantities of chemical weapons that were utilized in Syria. He also created the new Space Battle Management Command and Control Center. That's a capability to address the threat from unmanned aerial systems to critical nuclear facilities, a capability to combine missile warning data from multiple sources, and DoD's first ever University Research Center to combat weapons of mass destruction. Please congratulate Group 1. Thank you all. You couldn't help yourself, right? You couldn't wait to get up here. Right, better to be early than late, as I've always learned. In Group 2 from the Air Force, Joseph Nichols led the effort to identify gaps in the Air Force's ability to test complex weapons systems, ensured compliance with a congressional requirement for new cybersecurity testing, and created a plan to ensure the superiority of the electromagnetic spectrum for military operations. He was the driving force behind the plan to build the avionics cyber range to transform cybersecurity testing of aircraft electronics. Linda Rutledge directed the acquisition of the next generation of training aircraft without offer or protest and coming in $10 billion under estimate, as well as securing congressional approval for a multi-year contract vehicle to procure C-130 aircraft that saved $216 million. She also identified redundancies in contract timelines that saved 50% from beginning to award and developed an open architecture strategy for training applications that will save $10 million annually and improve cybersecurity. Bill Snodgrass reduced overall civilian hiring times by 11% and improved aircraft depot hiring timelines by 46%, negotiated a new agreement with DoD's largest union in 3 months, where the last effort took 5 years, and oversaw the first use of a large-scale virtual management review for officer promotions. While directing the Air Force's Wounded Warrior program, he also led a team providing concentrated non-medical care and support for combat wounded, ill, and injured airmen and their families as they recovered and transitioned back to active duty or into civilian life. Joy White was the architect of the space acquisition transformation, which speeds up attainment of cutting-edge technologies, accelerating delivery schedules by 19 years. 19 years. Wow. And enables the U.S. to outpace adversaries in the space domain. She applied innovative acquisition strategies to speed up the creation of secure tactical communication and resilient missile warning capabilities by years through a partnership with Norway that also saved $900 million. Additionally, she created a $500 million space enterprise consortium that gains the Air Force access to over 200 companies in commercial markets. This is Air Force Group number 2. So I realized that our last 2 organizations, after last Saturday, one would require condolences and one would require congratulations. And so next to the stage, I'll welcome the group that requires condolences, the very distinguished winners from the Department of the Army. Ray Alexander led the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers contingency operations during an unprecedented storm season containing 48 events covering 20 states, executing $6 billion in FEMA missions and $40 million in emergency flood control measures. He also developed the Mosul Dam project in Iraq, the establishment of a $6+ billion medical construction program at VA, and the Southwest Border Barrier Project in partnership with Customs and Border Protection. Jennifer Hitchcock led development of new armors and route clearance kits to reduce the harm to soldiers from improvised explosive devices. She also led a project partnering Army medical experts, Army engineers, and the Marines to redesign armored combat vehicles from the inside out to maximize occupant protection while still being a cost-reasonable acquisition. This led to new standards for vehicle occupant protection, new design and simulation tools, and new design guidance, which is being incorporated into the next generation of armored vehicles. Robert Sadowski founded and chairs the Army's Robotics Community of Practice, co-leads the DoD Community of Interest in Autonomous Technologies, and was the principal technical architect of the Army's $221 million manned-unmanned teaming strategy. He also accelerated development of a remotely operated weaponized ground robot to close a critical weapons gap, a process that has included the first soldier to qualify on a standard gunnery range with an unmanned asset. These are our Army winners. Congratulations. All I ask of the winners from the Department of the Navy is that you don't gloat about the football game as you come up to the stage. Please welcome George Drakely first. He directs all submarine acquisition activities for the Navy, including the next generation Columbia-class ballistic missile and Virginia-class attack submarines, saving $2 billion. He also established the Submarine Acoustic Oversight Group, developing innovative technologies years ahead of plans, and played a key role in the creation of the overall submarine strategic plan for the next 50 years. Paul Bowie led the DoD requirements generation process and rapid acquisition program development on a program the Navy will use to deliver long-range anti-ship missiles, gaining joint staff approval in 3 months rather than the usual 12, and played a key role in obtaining congressional approval and funding. He also made significant improvements to the Navy budget formulation process and improved inter-service coordination within the Joint Strike Fighter program. James Lofgren found $420 million in savings, representing over half the budget around the Aegis combat weapons system, which were used to bring requirements in line with funding for the first time. He also oversaw a competitive strategy for a new air and missile defense radar system, which expanded the defense industrial base, avoided the unsuitable incumbent, streamlined the process, and saved over $1 billion. Garrett Ressing addressed the legal issues necessary to quickly activate a Navy ship to neutralize Syrian chemical weapons productions, to use a decommissioned ship for the first time as a floating base in the Middle East, and to use Navy ships for response and recovery during the Fukushima disaster in Japan. He also drafted legislation to bridge a gap in contracts for blocking vessels that protect strategic nuclear deterrence assets, and manage the consolidation of military Sea Lift Command to Norfolk, Virginia, moving hundreds of jobs in the DC area. Steve Schultz managed the Navy's response to numerous submarine incidents, including a collision between a ship and a submarine in the Strait of Hormuz, ensuring the submarine's safe return home for repairs. He also shared the Navy's submarine safety program with foreign allies to improve submarine safety worldwide, and changed the operating cycle of Los Angeles-class subs to save $529 million and add 60 months of operating time before decommissioning. Sharon Smoot served as team lead for the Navy's Strategic Readiness Review, examining 30 years of naval readiness to recommend sweeping changes to military career progressions, ship maintenance cycles, and military training. She also oversaw implementation of a budget programming process that increased readiness and warfighting capacity while reducing the staff required by 25%. She substantially increased staffing at the naval shipyards to deliver ships out of maintenance on time, delivering much needed readiness to our warfighters. Please welcome our Navy winners. As our Navy winners take the stage and we get ready to move on, and I'll welcome Bill back in just a moment, I just want to say thanks to all of you for the last 3.5 years at Government Matters, and before that, 9 years at Federal News Radio, to be a part of your community. I came into this job knowing what the agencies did, and that was about it. And in the meantime, I have met hundreds, maybe thousands of people who are doing really excellent things on behalf of the citizens, and you've welcomed me into this community and taught me a lot and continue to teach me a lot. I'm grateful to you for your attention today, and I'm grateful to Bill for inviting me to be a part of this. But more than anything, I'm really grateful for you letting me be a part of this community. Thank you all very much.
So a couple of housekeeping notes. Our next concurrent sessions start at 1:45, but if we don't get started at 1:45, just extend on. We have a networking break after 3 o'clock, so you can just extend as much as you need to for the next session. Second, if you got the wrong trophy, there are some other trophies up here. Third, Each of the trophies comes with a very nice box, and we can have those available for you if you wish. Fourth, if you wish to come after the ceremony and take photos with your friends and family on the stage, feel free to do that. We have this room for the rest of the afternoon. And then finally, thank you all so much. This was an honor and a privilege to honor everybody in this room. Again, another round of applause for all the winners. And with this, you are dismissed.